was good. I liked it.
Yeah, no, I did listen to last week's show.
Yeah, he did because he's texting
Drive
me.
the Skin Highway.
Yeah.
I was like,
He texted me.
What?
He's like, giving me shit about Donnie Cates.
Oh, about
oh, y'all were killing me with that. I was like, it's Donnie Cates.
Well, I think I even said if Matt was here,
Yeah.
he'd be throwing a fit that we don't know who it is.
Yeah, that was our bad. It was just one of those off the cuff moments where like you're talking about it, you weren't really like.
Well, it was a
thinking about
legit
beforehand.
conversation.
Yeah.
It drifted to that. Neither one of us could remember who it was.
Neither
It just
Matt,
shows people that our show is real.
Yeah, we need Matt to call in on the hotline. Like,
Yeah,
hey, look,
hotline.
motherfuckers, just because I'm not there doesn't mean
I'd been like, God damn it. He's like, oh, bad caller.
need a buzzer. We
Yeah.
Well,
our
there's
our
a,
delay is off. Click.
what's his name? Jim Rome, the national radio talk show host for sports.
Oh yeah.
He has a deal when people call in and he doesn't like their call, instead of just like buzzing or whatever, it drops it and somebody's singing, I don't like that call. No, I didn't like that call.
Jesus.
That's funny. We need to get a clip like that or something like that. But, how's everybody doing?
It's been a week.
It has been a week.
It has been a week.
Yep.
7 days of it.
Yeah. 7 days of Mondays last week.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't, like I was telling Matt before you got here, it wasn't a bad week. It was just one of those weeks that every day was so busy
Yeah. Same here.
that it was just really hard to have free time for anything.
Right.
Well, you wouldn't go into it. It's a short week because of the holiday.
Right.
But it felt like 5 or 6 days were crammed into those 4.
Yeah.
And nothing like
backs up.
getting stood up 3 times by movers in 1 week.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's an experience I've never heard of
A
before.
run of bad luck.
Oh,
like
the
no
dude.
other.
The funny thing is when I sent you guys the text back and forth between me and the guy, and I said that, this started at 1:30 and it's now 4:30. I accidentally sent that to him.
Oh, did he get the message?
Yeah, he sent me pictures of his car broke down. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Something tells me he had those saved on his phone.
I feel
Yeah.
like that's a go-to. Maybe not. Who knows?
No, it was, because that was the same thing the first guy told us.
Yeah.
Was that his car broke down.
Like, bro, there's snow on the ground. Update it for the seasons, asshole.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry you guys had.
It wasn't
had
bad.
No, it wasn't bad. It was just
a
very
lot of
busy.
shit. Yeah.
Busy.
I had the first non-busy week. And
at you.
I should caveat that. It was busy, but I was having a blast.
Yeah.
Nice.
So first time in about 2 years, I spent the week. I didn't do any work. I didn't do any schoolwork. I didn't do any nonprofit work.
Wow.
I just had fun. Raj and I took a trip.
These things don't exist.
Right.
Dude, I
I
was
don't believe any of this now.
fucking unicorns, right? No, Raj and I took a trip over to Nashville to see our friend Brian Newberry and hang out with our friend Arnie. You guys know them from the comic circles. We went into about every single possible comic book shop in about a 40-mile radius. We just took a tour. It was great. Picked up a bunch of like hardcover swag. And then went into a used record store, and I looked up around the corner, and just because, the universe is weird, Brian fucking Stewart just walks around the corner holding a big thing of records. If you don't know Brian, he's a great artist, great photographer, was
Magazine publisher.
Yeah, has Phantasm Media is his company, does amazing stuff with like Walking Dead interviews and kind of this old horror and pop culture stuff.
A lot of the Night of the Living Dead stuff. George Romero.
Just is a
Published Kiss magazine
rockin',
for a while.
yeah, he was editor-in-chief of Kiss magazine too. And he's a pretty amazing rock and roll like photographer. Like he just gets random phone calls to go
Nice.
like photograph just different groups, be it mega groups or I think
He's
this
living
weekend
10-year-old me's best life.
Yeah,
kidding,
he gets to be awesome. But yeah, so in the middle of Nashville, he's not from there. He's from like
He was actually
Southwest
coming
Arkansas.
back. I don't know if he told you, but he was up in where was the Night of the Living Dead?
Pennsylvania. Yeah,
He was up there doing a convention at the mall that Dawn of the Dead was in.
Yep.
So
yeah, and so just happened to be at the right place at the right time.
yeah,
just to
I
see
think that
everybody
was his first convention
since
post
COVID, yeah.
pandemic. Yeah.
So, but no,
Nice.
it was fun, dude. Just had a great time. But I am glad to be back sitting at the table with you guys in Sherwood, Arkansas at Kapow Comics. This is episode 185 of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. I am a well-traveled Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Matt Trogdon.
And I'm an exhausted Craig Lance.
Nice. Sleepy. in your Padres. Now, how many Padres jerseys do you actually have at this point?
I don't know. I lost count.
I never see him in the same Padres
It's like
jersey
Batman's
twice.
closet. He's
Right.
just
It's all
Yeah.
Padres. Yeah, no, I think I have like 12 or so.
Now the Pod's having a good week. How's it going?
Now the Padres are limping into the All-Star break.
Oh man.
4-6 over their last 10 games. So
Well, that's unfortunate. I know those are your boos. So
it's part of life.
had a fairly decent season though.
Yeah,
You've
they're
been
in the
really
wild card
excited.
race at least. So I'm not mad.
I'm a Cowboys fan, so I don't know what that's like. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the sports balls, even though I think 2 out of 3 of us are fans. Matt's just like, no.
He's into entertainment sports.
entertainment
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah,
Yes.
give me a guy in a turnbuckle and about 7 feet.
yeah, that's right.
So, any cool wrestling things happening since we hit the topic?
Man, I have been so unplugged from all of it. I have not seen any wrestling in well over a week. To my great shame, my other wrestling compatriots keep asking me about so-and-so match, and I'm like, man, I wasn't home. I was
Right.
traveling, and just the disappointment is abound. So I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm unplugged. I don't like it.
Well, fix that, remedy that.
Yeah.
Did
yeah.
you
I mean,
see
some
the
people in my life are very happy for
Right.
this same.
I'm sure.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Did you see the broken ankle last night?
No, I did
in the
not.
pay-per-view for the UFC?
No.
McGregor broke his ankle in the match. It's nasty.
Broken how? Was it a kick?
Bent in, I did. All I saw was
Oh.
the picture afterward because I don't do the paper. Yeah,
Yeah, I
do
don't know.
UFC anyways. But I saw the picture on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, remember the one where the guy kicked the dude in
Silva.
his
Yeah,
foot turned to
yeah.
a sock?
Yeah.
That's essentially what it looked like.
He must have landed a. Yeah. They've been talking about barring those kicks because of that.
They
stuff.
probably should.
Well,
I would imagine at McGregor's age, that's probably the end of his.
But we are not here to talk about the broken ankles in the
Let's
UFC.
slander some comic.
Yeah,
people.
let's do that. So each week we get together. We're 3 friends from Arkansas. We love comics. We like to hang out. If this is your first show, welcome. We're glad you're here. If you're not, if you've been listening to all 184 episodes prior to this, we're glad you came back. We're going to do what we always do and kick this show off by doing a short stack. Just for those of you who might not know what that is. It's kind of, you go to the Waffle House, you order a short pack of pancakes, they drop 3.
You don't get that at Waffle House.
No, Caleb.
You can get pancakes at Waffle House. You never had Waffle House pancakes?
This sounds made up.
Yeah, it sounds made up to me.
The pancake is the enemy of the waffle.
But
They're not gonna.
But they have them.
They are mortal enemies.
Well, this isn't like an IHOP. Like they're like IHOP and like Waffle House aren't doing like the snappy feud from like West Side Story, but
They should be.
It's not what I heard.
Amazing.
no, it's one of them is a classy establishment. The
Either
other one-
way, a short stack of
yeah,
pancakes.
it is. It's like a short stack of pancakes, which you can get at Waffle House. I promise. I've been in enough of them, and I might have just been drunk and been like really looking at.
I think you're really at IHOP.
Maybe.
That also could have been the case.
You said he told, let's go to Waffle House. And everybody's like, this is Waffle House, Caleb. Promise.
Patting me on the head and sending me on my way.
They don't have waffles at this Waffle House. You have to order pancakes.
They have waffles at IHOP.
It's a special.
They really do. I'm not
I
joking.
know they have waffles.
Nah, the iron was broke that day, so they just gave him a.
Went and got an actual iron and set on top of it. So we talk about 3 things just to get the ball rolling, get us in the mood to talk about comics that we have read this week. So, Craig, you look like you're feisty this morning. So why don't you drop 3 comics on us that you
I
read
look
this week?
feisty.
You do,
All
energetic
right.
and shit.
So, Nightwing number 81 from DC Comics. Are either of you guys reading the Nightwing stuff?
No, I should be.
Well, I'd quit, and then Tom Taylor took over, and I started reading it again. And this new creative team is really nailing this character.
Yeah.
It's got Robin in it, so you've got Dick Grayson and Damian,
Okay.
which is some of the best bat dynamics you can get, and Oracle's in it quite a bit too. So it's been real interesting. They're trying to help him get back on the right path now that he is once again Dick Grayson and not
Right.
Rick.
Thank God.
So that's Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo and Adriano Lucas on that book. And then X-Force number 21. This continues to be one of my favorite X-Men books. Benjamin Percy is absolutely killing it in this book. The art on this one had two different artists, and you could tell throughout the book. It was Joshua Cassara and Robert Gill with Guru effects on colors. But the you could tell the art was different pages, different artists on it.
Right.
It didn't mix real well, but the story was still great. It would have been better just picking one of the two artists and letting them do it. And then lastly, Red Sonja, Black, White, and Red number 1. You guys know how much I love anthology books, but this one had a story in it by Mark Russell and one by Kurt Busiek.
Yeah.
Is that how you say it? Busiek? I've heard it say. Anyways, either way.
Sure.
Really good stories.
Those of us who are friends with him, we just call him Kurt.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
KB
Kurt,
for short.
KB.
or
KB
brother,
and MR.
as we hug and we embrace.
Yeah, does Mark Russell comment on your Facebook posts? He comments on
He
mine.
does not. You have that distinct pleasure.
Name dropping.
Right.
Anyways, no, there's some real the Mark Russell story in this was so freaking great.
Yeah.
I knew you'd read this one.
Yeah.
It was so good. So and the other ones were fantastic too, but just the concept of being in this imprisoned by this sorcerer that had everybody so compelled that they, like, she's trying to free the prisoners and they're like, no, we were put here by the great sorcerer. We can't escape.
Yeah.
And then to come to find out that it's just the old court jester is just using the mythos of this sorcerer to keep everybody in
for
fear.
sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It was really good. So well worth the read.
Yeah, it was.
And I'm not an anthology book reader,
No,
but it
most
was
of the
Red Sonja.
Yeah.
It had some good creators.
I don't know. I feel like this is like the second anthology that you've enjoyed in the past 3 weeks.
Sounds like somebody's phony, maybe. Out there in,
he's
I still
he's
hate
growing
anthology.
as a person.
out there anthology.
Wait till we get an anthology that's an annual and he gushes
It's all
about it.
just for show about this anthology dislike.
Maybe.
Poking holes in that.
No, I think Craig
I
is
think
just
it's
branching
compelling
out.
stories.
There you go.
And so many anthology books are not compelling.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. So, what you got?
My short stack, I also read X-Force number 21 from Marvel. So, yeah, this continues to be one of my favorite X titles, one of my favorite titles on the shelf, especially amongst Marvel. What I thought was really interesting about this story was the fact that Man-Thing makes an appearance.
Makes a few appearances.
Yeah, and what's going on with Man-Thing as it relates to Krakoa, I was like, wow, that's pretty fucking clever.
Yeah,
I didn't see that coming. I thought it was really cool. Love the artwork in it, man. So yeah, for all the same reasons, keep recommending X-Force. Also is the new story arc from, it's on Image Comics, That Texas Blood, from Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips. This is number 7. This is a great crime story. There's no fantastic elements to it. It's just a very street-level, real-world crime story. If you like and are familiar with No Country for Old Men, this is this feels very No Country for Old Men.
Gotcha.
Just, you've got a end of his career sheriff in a small country town.
A trope that you love.
Love that stuff. And he's reflecting upon his career. That first arc was, in his present day. This arc is apparently going to be like a flashback arc to when he what really propelled him into his career. So if you like crime, this is a great story.
And here we go.
Third on my short stack, I took a step back a few years. One of my pickups that I had bragged about a few weeks ago at the comic book convention from PC Comics, quote, for the new era in comics, Miss Mystic number 1, says right up front in big letters, origin issue.
Oh.
This baby came out in 1982, created and written by one Neil Adams. Lettered by John Costanza, colored by Corey Adams. Zips! by Joel Adams. I don't know what zips are.
Probably zipatones.
I mean,
I haven't seen the art in that, but I would assume that's what they're referencing.
There is, scant use of zipatone. So I guess zips is. Now the insiders talk about zipatone.
I mean, I could be wrong about that. So if it's not being used,
it's here and there. Everyone. I mean, it's scantily used, but it's there.
Okay.
So zips. Yeah, and when you open this baby up, editorial news. Dear reader, Miss Mystic has arrived! ! The comic you hold in your hands is one of the most eagerly awaited direct sales titles ever published.
Wow, that's throwing down the gauntlet there.
That meme or whatever from Thor, from the third Thor movie, where he's like, "Is it though?"
Yeah. So he goes on to blow himself pretty well in this editorial opener.
Adams write it?
He did not. This is the editor, one David Scroggy. That this is just
him and Neil Adams probably worked very well together.
I'm guessing that they did. So this is a story about a mystic intergalactic female presence that decides to take on Earth as her protected local pet project.
Okay.
And she hates herself some unenvironmentally friendly stuff.
As you do. She's Captain Planet.
She is very much Captain Planet.
She's okay.
She is very much Captain Planet, except she's from outer space.
Right.
So that's the stuff.
So how's the art?
Neil Adams' art is great. Neil Adams' art is super solid. There's no knocking the art. There is a short story in the back from the Tales of Zed, Rescue Rhapsody by one Chris Miller. I don't know who this is. This artwork's fucking great.
Okay.
It's just a short fantasy story about,
Looks like Gru. That first.
That was an advertisement.
Oh, gotcha.
It's just this. I want to know what this is, and I'd like more of this because the artwork's great. It's there's fairies and trolls.
How do I get this book, Matt says?
Yeah, that's in the back. So
why is this the backup?
So go out, kids. Well, I'm sure you're all familiar with Miss Mystic. I mean, as we all know, it was the most anticipated, eagerly awaited direct sales titles ever published. So I'm sure I'm telling everybody what they already knew. Sorry to waste your time.
Yeah. So before you jump to yours, he was talking about environmentalists.
Mm-hmm.
Did you? You probably didn't because you hate Rick and Morty. But did either of you watch the first episode of the new season?
I in fact did not.
His anti-hero, like his arch nemesis, shows up, and it's Mr. Nimbus, who is basically Namor.
Oh, I heard about that.
Yeah.
Controlling things with his dick.
Oh, controlling things with his dick.
Yeah, he's wearing just a Speedo,
mm-hmm.
and he can control the cops, and he's like, fight, fuck, and he's thrusting his hips at them, flee. It was pretty great.
Controlling things with your dick.
I mean, that's to be fair, that's
pretty much Namor's job.
Like Namor
it was definitely
shows
Namor,
up with his very well endowed package and just is a king. So
pretty much that was the whole point of this.
And if you don't believe him, just ask him.
Yep.
So
Imperious Rex.
All right. Well, so all of my stuff on my short stack is just a little bit newer, and I'm not going to get in too much to one of them because I think one of them might be getting spoken about here pretty soon. But the first one is the Guardians of the Galaxy number 15. Al Ewing and Juan Frigeri and Federico Blee are the team on this one. I am not, I think I've said this before, I'm not a long time Guardians of the Galaxy reader. I haven't been up until Al Ewing took over, I wasn't reading the book. It's just not my cup of tea most of the time. This is awesome.
It's Al Ewing.
Yeah, this is so. I mean, I'm already inclined to like it because it involves Wiccan and Hulkling to some extent. But now, so what he's essentially done is he's got the Guardians essentially split up into two teams, and they're in different spots. And they're there's going to be this pincher maneuver converging as these two problems. They realize that they're either connected or they're actually the same problem. Al Ewing writes Doctor Doom amazingly. It's fun. It's funny. It cracks me up. Hercules is now involved in there because Hercules in space is Hercules in space. It's just cool. But no, dude, I thoroughly enjoy this. Juan Ferreri's art is top notch. Like he makes looking at this book fun. Doesn't have like a super thick line. Is kind of like it's that when you see some of these Marvel artists, it's like, okay, this is house style plus. So it's not just house style that they take and just it kind of blends in with everything. They take the house style and then they blow it up to the next level. And I think that's a lot of what he does, and I really appreciate it. Number 2, I'm going to be short on this one, though. The book is called Parasomnia from Dark Horse Comics. Cullen Bunn, Andrea Moody, and Boland, not Brian Boland. There's another. There's the letterer that did this. I thought this book was a hell of a lot of fun.
I didn't find the letterer listed, so I see him on the cover, but I'm not sure who it is.
I follow him on Twitter, so he seems like a cool dude.
Yeah.
This book is interesting. It takes place in 2 different realms that play off of one each other, and that's all I'll say about that. And then last but certainly not least, my friend Kurt wrote a book that I've been really enjoying. This one doesn't have zips,
Does
but
he comment
I'll
on
ask
your
about
stuff?
him. No, but I would probably shit my pants if he did. I've never actually got to like meet Kurt Busiek, but I really, really want to. The only time that I've ever spoken with him is right after the second Avengers Age of Ultron thing kicked off, and there were some things in there that stems from his run on the Avengers. I was like, oh hey, they like included this thing, and while overall the movie left me wanting some, but I thought this was a neat little element and it was a good nod. And he was like, no dude, I noticed that too, it was awesome. Now they can fucking pay me for it. It'd be great.
Going along with that, before you talk about that particular book, is Jimmy Palmiotti commented about them actually giving him credit in the Black Widow movie. And somebody's like, well, did they give you money? And he's like, no, why, you got something for me?
Yeah, right.
But they put his name in the credits. But
by the way, I went and watched that. I enjoyed it. It was fun stuff. But no, this is written by Kurt Busiek, drawn by Ildre Sonar, with Richard Ivanov on the colors. It's the Marvels. It continues to be good. They throw back to these generational kind of things. It's a new take on Reed Richards. It's almost like a what if, but not a what if. But it takes place on a different timeline. I like seeing Ben Grimm not as the Thing. It's interesting. Like it's like what if Ben Grimm was just a dude and was still working in this world?
What if Reed actually fulfilled his promise?
Yeah,
and allowed Ben to be able to switch back and forth between human to the Thing.
And it's
I'm not reading it.
No, but essentially that's a lot of what it is. It's what if they went through the world and they didn't have this change and they like it had to set in. Do you choose being a hero or do you choose family? What's really cool about this one though, the last issue, number 2, took place in Vietnam and they introduced Frank. This one they're getting into a little bit more of the Cold War, and it's timely because they actually have a lot of Red Guardian in this, and Red Guardian, it's not a spoilers if you've seen like one trailer, but Red Guardian is in the Black Widow movie, and so interesting and fun. They are in a pickle, and I'm curious to see how they're going to get out. They're going to get out, but I mean,
they're in a pickle.
They are.
I'm picturing them as in a pickle jar.
No, you stuck like hell. No.
Like the Hulk, and he's just smiling.
Oh God, that cover from Immortal Hulk when he was like chopped up.
Yeah,
still one of my favorites. I love that.
That was the issue that really
solidified.
That was like, okay, this is something special.
Yeah.
I loved it before, but when that happened, I was like, okay, this is something special.
Smiles.
Yeah,
it's just like
snaps his fingers.
Yeah,
it's like oh God. But no, so that's. I'm glad we all read those. Those are fun stuff. If you want to, and maybe you read 3 books that you just want to give a short, little, brief pitch on, you can do so on our Facebook page. You just hit us up. You join the group, answer some questions, promise us that you're not a Nigerian prince who wants us to help funnel money into the country, and we let you in. And you can tell us what you're reading. We would love that. Just search Southern Fried Geekery Podcast right up in the search bar, and we'll pop up. We actually did have a Nigerian prince try to join the group.
So, nice.
Yeah. I ignored that guy.
I declined that guy.
I don't have any time for royalty.
No.
Fuck those people.
I'm down with the proletariat.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I always like knowing what you guys are reading on the offside, and I've got to get caught up on X-Force.
You do.
Woefully behind. But you know what I'm not woefully behind on? the book that. See, damn it, Craig. You just I saw it. It clicked in your head, but you're like, no, I'm not taking.
I let it go. I wasn't gonna say it.
I'm not doing this. The exit was there, and you just drove right past it. No, I am not woefully behind on the book that we chose to be our roundtable this week. Each week we get together. We decide to check out.
That would suck if you were woefully behind on our roundtable.
On the one issue.
It's like, I'm going to introduce it and then let you guys talk about it, and just give my input. No, so we got together as we do each week, and we picked out a book that we want to read together, if you will, and pitch our thoughts. Now, we're keeping up the social contract. We haven't spoken about this book together, so I have no idea what your thoughts on it are. But I do want to say that before I get too far into it, the only really way to talk about these things is to dig into them a little bit. So if you haven't read Ordinary Gods from Image Comics, then hit the pause button and go read it and then come back. We don't want to spoil it for you, but you have been warned. There was a spoiler warning because we're nice people like that. So Ordinary Gods. This book is written by Kyle Higgins, who we have enjoyed in the past. Felipe Watanabe is the artist on it. Frank William is the colorist, and Clayton Cowles, who letters a whole lot of stuff, was once again the letter on this. Before we dive into the actual content of it, what did you guys think about this book? Just a brief overview.
Not for me.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to stick on it, but I did like the book. I may give it another issue and see what happens with it.
I was more drawn to the art than I was the story.
Art, yeah, the art was great.
Yeah. I really enjoyed
the
looking
mythology
at
of the story. I think is more interesting than the story.
Yeah.
That we got. Maybe it's because it's the first issue, which is why I'm going to give it another issue.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out.
And Kyle Higgins hasn't really failed me in the past, so.
Yeah, my hang up is not quality. It's just not. It's a genre. I have a. There's a few genre tropes that stick in my craw. Typically, one is time travel.
Yeah.
And another is when you have the sword and sorcery fantasy crossover into the reality.
Right.
I just can't get into
That's
anything.
why you really liked Berserker. The one with,
right. Yeah.
the
Don't get me
Jack
started
Mirror
on that. So this is just a personal taste thing. Yeah. It's not a knock on the quality of the book at all.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm kind of lukewarm on it. I should say. I think I will read issue 2. But it's just.
What's weird is this book is getting all kinds of praise all over the internet.
Nice.
Well, people are loving this book, which
makes me
I mean,
happy.
Quality-wise, it is. But for all three of us to be kind of lukewarm on it, I expected I was probably by myself on that, just because of what I'd seen on the rest of the internet.
No, again, it's not a. Yeah,
it's not a quality
you're not,
issue.
You're not on your own with that one. It was tepid. But that's not saying anything. I'm glad to hear that other people liked it. I would rather that. So
I mean, art, like we say all the time, art is subjective, and not everything is going to be for every person.
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily reflect on the quality when we say we're not staying on something.
Yeah, no, for sure. And well, you were talking about Kyle Higgins. Kyle Higgins, I won't say that he's failed me in the past, quote unquote. He writes things that sometimes are hit and miss for me, just like a lot of writers do.
I mean, I can't say I've read everything he's written, so the stuff I have read, I've tend to enjoy.
Yeah.
So,
but he's also got me reading like Ultraman. I'm not an Ultraman fan. I don't have any history with
Radiant
that character.
Black.
See, Radiant Black was a miss for me. I didn't enjoy that one as much, but I hear all of my initial things about it. Apparently have been rectified, and people are telling me no, read past the 3rd issue, and you'll like it. So I may need to go back.
It's like
and
One
revisit
Piece.
that.
Watch the first 100 episodes. And
That's
then you can decide
that's
if
not
you
like
it
One
or
Piece.
not.
You don't have to make a legitimate life choice.
Oh my god!
So, all right. So, what is this book that they have written for our enjoyment and entertainment? Ordinary Gods. Essentially is a split. It's a split between mythology and the real world. I think the best way to frame it is to bring in the gods first. So there is this pantheon behind the veil of these gods, and like most pantheons, they don't always agree with one another. And essentially, what happens is there is a revolt. Now mankind revolts against the god from time to time, the gods from time to time, but they're fairly easily put down.
Because they're gods.
Yeah, because they're gods. That's just kind of how
mankind.
Yeah, they squish them with their thumb. It's like ants, But That kind of changes one day when one of the gods themselves forms their own coalition, and they start their own revolution, so to speak. And essentially, what it boils down to is both sides kind of simultaneously, or one side finds a way to essentially take and entrap.
Life finds a way.
Yeah, Jurassic Park. They find a way to entrap the gods on Earth inside a mortal plane. And the gods are immortal, but it takes their power away. Now, the one side, they're hesitant to use this, right? Like, they don't know. They're like, okay, what are the moral ramifications of this? These are our brethren. They're gods. Like, is this the right thing to do? But the other side, which is not the rebelling side, it's the king. It's like the head god himself. He has no qualms about hijacking this technology and sending.
He looked a bit like Thor.
He looked a little bit like a mix of that and the God of War guy, like Kratos. I saw a lot of that in there too, which I'm sure I think that was probably on purpose. I know Kyle Higgins really likes to inject a lot of pop culture into his stuff, so they do that. They send all of these rebelling gods to Earth and they stick them in mortal bodies, but one of them knows what's going on, right, and is trying to escape. So throughout history, there has been this movement to try to liberate. And these gods who are trapped on Earth, they don't know that they're gods, right? Like they think that they're people. They don't realize they're actually imprisoned and they're living a mortal life as a punishment. They just kind of do their thing. But throughout history, like there has been someone who has repeatedly tried to free them, which brings us to where we're at in the story. The story, there's this young fellow, and he is, just living his life, trying to live his best life. He's taking, not necessarily, he's taking part in family stuff. He's got a good mom and dad, who, they have those really neat family dinners where they talk about their day. The happy kind of family that none of us really got to have. I'm joking.
Boring.
You were supposed to laugh.
I was traumatized by thinking about my childhood.
But
let me choke back my tears.
I was having some PTSD.
Yeah. Hilarious, Caleb. Hilarious.
I was left at the dinner table alone with my chicken nuggets. So as good as it seems on the outside, everything is not necessarily peachy keen as they would have you believe. Like our boy, he's seen a therapist because something has happened to him, and we don't particularly know what, but he had to go away for a little bit. There is a allusion to the fact that he might have tried to commit suicide or something, but they don't ever come out and just say it. They just say, hey, like, you called for help, you were young and depressed and alone, and you had to go away for a little bit, and they told your sister you were having your appendix removed. Like there was this whole story built up around it that they really just don't talk about. And as he is doing stuff with baby sis, trying to be a good big brother, trying to like throw his life into gear because he's 22. He lives with his parents. He's working a shit job with almost, at most the upward mobility that is available to him is to be like the head person at a shit job and convince other people to work a shit job. Like he's looking at a future of really like menial labor in his mind, and he's not excited about it. But he is excited about being a big brother. So little sister is a fan of this, I guess, Harry Potter-esque series. And, the new book has come out, and she wants to be the first one in the class to read it. So he takes her to the mall. And as they get to the mall, they're shopping. They get their book. But they notice that there's this little setup in the mall. And there's some type of, like, almost evangelical element to it. Like, people are inviting them over, and they're supposed to like put their hand on a button and it tells them how much God they have in them, and it's a weird cult, but it seems like it's probably a scam. And I think we would all think it was a scam, except for the way that the book sets it up.
Yeah, go read the internet.
Yeah, he doesn't play the game, but he does grab the little thing as he's making a point. Like there's this little handle, and he as he's grabbing it to make a point, he walks off. There's going to be some ramifications from that. The next day at work, he is delivering some paint, and he walks into an office, and there's these two figures waiting to talk about him. And he doesn't know who they are, but they're a little... basically, it boils down to the point that he's ready to file like a restraining order on him. Like, he's freaked out because he's like... but they're referencing what happened in the mall yesterday, and he's like, oh, shit, you're like watching me? Like, this, like you're a weird cult. Maybe stay away from me. So he goes home, and he's telling his parents about this. And how weird it is.
And then shit happens.
And then some shit happens. And it all goes awry. And, well, I mean, murder happens. But we'll leave it at that.
Murder, death kills.
Yeah. Necks and butter. Death by butter knife is a terrible way to go. The book takes a left turn from there. And the influence of the gods really kicks in. And where it's going into issue 2 is heartbreak, survival, and kind of really like taking the mud from his eyes, so that he's going to really see that what all this the build up and this weird, like, element of the gods and stuff is, there's more to it than he knows, and he plays a role in it that he is probably not prepared for, but he's going to have to get prepared for it real fast. So I think I'll leave it at that. It's a fun concept. It's a really cool story. It reminded me a little bit of from a plot point of Adventureland, I think it was the Terry Moore book, where there's in the real world there's this librarian, but there's like an occult element to it and a pop culture element to it, which is self-referential. I thought that was interesting. I like the dynamics of the two finding a way to blend oil and water, so to speak, that some of these books do. I thought that was creative.
It had a kind of wicked and divine feel, where the gods are reborn, the pantheon of gods are reborn every so often,
right,
and live for a few years, which is the Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey book. I felt like Wicked and Divine maybe did it a little better, but we're only one issue in.
Right.
So it's hard to say where this book is going. But like I said, I'm going to give it another issue or two. The art is gorgeous in this book. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. The story, again, I need another issue to know.
My favorite pages in the book are when they're telling the story of like the rebellion and the gods are kicking in, especially so because I'm a fantasy fan. Like, I like fantasy novels, so like there's a map in this book that shows you the island and the breakup of how the gods like split it, and each little section has a totem. Like, one section is called inspiration, the other one's instinct, love, intelligence. Then literally like across the river you have like savagery and envy and regret and guilt and sorrow, and it's
the gods take on emotions.
Yeah, well,
each
and
god in their territory is an emotion versus a traditional pantheon of gods we know.
It's a literal physical embodiment, a continent of what makes up humanity, like these kind of like distilled, boiled down elements, and to turn that into like an aspect of this like deity civil war, I think that's kind of cool, right? And
where you have like the dude getting ripped from his home because he's too strong, and he could serve them better in their army, basically. It's a very there's some very interesting takes in this book, and there's a lot going on in this book, and that's why, again, I think it's just going to take me an issue or two to know.
I was a little thrown. Like, at first, I had to reread this book because at first I was thinking that
I don't know how you do that. I mean, you do that a lot. Like, you read a book and you set it down and you immediately reread it.
Oh, yeah.
I can't do that. I can't. It's like I just read. And I know you do it too. I've never been able to do that.
I do it if I'm confused on something.
That's fair.
Like, I had a complaint about this book, and I wanted to see if it was really a complaint or if I'd missed something, and I'm glad I did, because it turned out I just missed something.
Yeah.
So in my brain, as I'm reading this, and as they're explaining how the gods, like this infernal device or whatever is invented to ship them down the earth, I missed. And to be fair, you have to pay attention or you're going to miss it. But I was thinking it was like this.
Generally a rule when you're reading.
Sometimes, but like this was a little element. So as I'm reading the story, it looks like it was the head god, the king god, that got bottled up and shipped down to Earth. And then at the end of it, when they were essentially telling a character like, "No, you're the luminary," like, who is one of the gods that you meet, I was like, well, wait, I thought he was like king shit god. So I had to go back up, and like literally in the bottom corner of the page, it explains to you, and that was what I missed, was in one little text box it says, but their enemies didn't mind using it against them. I'm like, that's the part I missed. Like, I didn't make that connection. So it's actually the rebellious gods that were shipped down to Earth. I totally missed that corner somehow, and so I was very confused. I'm like, well, this is kind of hard to follow, which is both I was wrong, but I think that is a legit, from a critical aspect.
It's when comics go back and forth in time. Sometimes I'll miss that time jump. It's like my brain skips over the then and now.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, and so unless it's very clear within the pages of the story, I get how sometimes those little things your brain just skips over them sometimes,
especially if it's not because this is a visual medium, and in a book like this there's a lot of detail, and so your eye can miss things if it's not drawn, if attention's not drawn to it. And I think that's what happened. Like I said, it took no less than one other reread for me to unfunk the timeline and what had happened in my head, but it took that second reread. So I'd be curious to know if anybody else.
Riri Williams?
Wait,
Riri Williams?
Reread? Yeah, no. LOL. But yeah, no, I've got no complaints other than that.
Sorry, I had to throw the dad joke out there.
It says the man in the Padres jersey. But no, that was a good one. So yeah, go check out the second issue of this, and see what happens. I think, I've got several people in mind who I think would really actually enjoy this book. I think our buddy Jerry would enjoy this book. I think it would be right up his alley, and so I think that there are other folks who will as well.
Like I said, it's getting all kinds of praise all over the internet. I've seen multiple comic book people within the industry praise this book. People that I just follow on Twitter that happen to be comic book enthusiasts that have been praising this book. It's getting lots and lots of praise. So this is one of those times that I think it's just missing all of our taste.
Yeah.
More so than it's missing the mark of the story.
I more so am. I'm more curious in what is promised within the cover. So I think you guys have the same cover I do, but the cover really plays more into the line of this has been going on for generations and centuries, and they've got,
which is what led me to the Wicked and Divine kind of thing. This is a thing that happens every so often.
Yeah, and so the front cover has Queen Elizabeth and Lennon.
I thought that was the Queen of Hearts from
Alice in Wonderland.
Reach over and slap his hand.
Tell me, does it not look a bit like the Queen of Hearts?
It does, but I think the Queen of Hearts was meant to look like Queen Elizabeth.
I get it. I'm playing.
And it's got a shogun. There's all of these. I think Abe Lincoln is on the back. Nefertiti and a Viking. Who knows who that is? But I'm more interested
Viking. Who knows who
that. It might be Eric the Red. He is a red-bearded fellow.
Oh, that's got to be Eric the Red.
Yeah,
it's Eric the Red for sure.
That's more what I'm wanting from this. And to be fair, if that's not the story they're getting into, that's just want one hand and.
Well, I think that there's something promised in that cover that probably will be fulfilled.
I think so, and they talk about it a little bit in here.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm gearing up for. Again, just before we move on, I don't want to short shrift the art in this book. It really is gorgeous. I am not super familiar with Watanabe, but I need to be. His character designs are stunning. Like I said, the head god, all of the gods, this pantheon of characters, is just it is kinetic. His storytelling, the way that he draws your eye to different portions of the page. Is it's really good sequential storytelling, and that's something that a lot of times artists that I'm not familiar with, and I have no idea what his history is. He could be just an old pro, but a lot of times we look at books and we're like, okay, I'm not familiar with this creative team. You start to see some stuff, you're like, oh, okay, this is they missed the mark on that. Just the sheer triangles that he uses and to control your eye, his entire grasp of the layout of the page is some really fun work. Very thin line, doesn't waste any space, I don't feel like, and just the movement that he puts on the page is incredibly cool. Now, I didn't read the back matter in this. Did either of you?
I did not.
Okay, so Kyle Higgins put some prose in here that I think, and I haven't had a chance to check it out or knock it out, but I think it
I think it probably gives some more details of what's happening. I read like the first paragraph, but to be fair, I read that this morning and I was running behind.
For sure.
So I just didn't have time to read it.
I think what the prose is there's a moment in the scene where where one of the characters touches a god and gets a flashback of essentially these old, it looks like a Japanese spa where these like heavily tattooed men are, sitting in like a steam room. I think whatever happens in that glimpse is what is unfolded in the prose in the back of it. So I've got to check that out because I'm sure there's some stuff in there that we need to know, or Higgins wouldn't have put it in there. I think there's something you can take away from it.
Not reading all the prose in the X-Men books.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you've got to almost.
Well, I did read some of the back matter. I didn't finish it, but what I didn't read, I'd scan through. But it gives you some more insight into the story.
Okay.
Is what it is. Yeah.
It's almost not necessary, but it adds a lot of flavor to it. Is that what I'm?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's necessary, but you just get a lot more context.
Okay. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, I gotcha. So yeah, I'm gonna check the second issue out. I'm curious, and if nothing else, I am now a fan of Watanabe.
Art's great.
I'm gonna follow him. Yeah. Added him on the Instagrams, so I can follow him on there.
On the IGs.
On the IGs.
I got one of those.
Yes,
I have one of those. I don't use it, but I have one.
Yes, you do, man. I was pleasantly surprised.
I'm pretty sure the only things I've ever posted on Instagram, either my wife posted for me or you posted for me.
Matt popped up on Instagram. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, who is this human? This is next level stalking.
Did he use his real name?
No, he used the name that we've talked about before, the Red Sonja's mate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just like, I texted him. I was like, dude, you've been scammed. Somebody's hijacked your thing, and he's like, no, they didn't. Nuh-uh.
He's never said didn't in his
life. Look, he also has never had an Instagram page in his life.
Yeah.
Like our
the world is changing.
Our boy is like he's coming out on fleek and just ready.
I don't know what
living.
fleek is.
He's trying to take a step down. He's going to be a head millennial before it's all said and done with.
Exactly.
The vein in his temple just twitched.
Exactly.
Well, what did you guys read this week?
Well, before I go, do we want to do another book with a trigger warning before we are and get it out of the way?
Sure.
Because I mean, yours had the Ordinary Gods had a little bit of a trigger warning with the potential suicide and that sort of thing. So, okay, well, I'm going to give a little bit of a trigger warning on this because it does talk about an unsheltered man being attacked.
Yeah.
There is one thing also before I get started on this. At the end of this book, and this kind of bugged me because either it's part of the narrative or you just spoiled something in the solicitation, like the ad for the next issue. It says, in a twisted dream world, a nameless stranger battles nightmares in his hunt for his missing son, which gives away the premise of what's been built up in the rest of the book, but it doesn't necessarily tell you.
Yeah.
So either they gave too much away in the solicitation for the next issue, or they didn't put enough in here to lead us to that, to draw that conclusion on our own.
So I read the original preview solicit for this book, and the preview solicit said was something kind of on those lines. And as I was reading the story, which, like I said, I'm sure you're going to get into here in just a second, I remember thinking, this reads differently from what I was what I was led to believe in the previews. And then I read that second page. I'm like, okay, it's going to build up to what the previews was. So this is really
it does, but it either put it in there and make it aware that that's what's happening, or don't put it in the solicit so that I find it out as it happens.
Yeah, it almost acts as a prelude that is loosely connected, but
but that is the one complaint I have about this entire book. This is Parasomnia, all the same creators that Caleb already gave you. So this book starts, as I said, with a unsheltered man being attacked as he's living under a bridge. Mm-hmm. And he's attacked by some punks for basically just existing. And he calls them trolls, or says the word trolls, which could play into something else later, we don't know.
Right.
Or it could be that, the whole being under a bridge and trolls, who knows, it could play into something. So as he falls unconscious, based on what we learn at the end of the book, he appears to go into a dream world where it's colonial America, and he's this Paul Revere character that's hunting a missing boy.
Mm-hmm.
And he has to fight brigands and make his way through a haunted forest to get there. And he finally gets to this town and finds out it's been a setup all along. Back in the real world, we see a woman driving down the street, a Mrs. Greer, and she sees the unsheltered man and breaks down bawling. And then it goes back to the fantasy world where he finds a Pinocchio. Yes.
So if we have any European or English listeners, bawling means different things here in the States.
Oh,
Yes.
crying. She breaks down crying.
She's like, what?
Seeing homeless men attack doesn't make her horny and want to have sex.
Okay.
It's not what
Okay.
Craig's saying.
We are an American podcast. So again, it goes back and he finds the boy, but it's a Pinocchio style
Marionette
boy. There's no children in this town, we find out, and this boy is alive and hits him in the head. And he comes back to the real world when he gets knocked out there, and we see him staring at a poster of a missing boy, and he breaks down crying. Won't say bawling. He breaks down crying, seeing this picture of the missing boy.
Mm-hmm.
That looks very much like the woman that we saw crying when she saw him earlier. So the assumption that I've put together is that this is the father, she's the mother, and she saw him, broke down because her husband can't deal with the fact that their son's missing,
Right.
and has broken down and become unsheltered and basically lost touch with reality at this point, the way it's being portrayed. But then we find out that the boy is still in fact alive and is being held by some cultists.
Yep.
Which is an interesting thing. So I'm going to make some assumptions, and that is that the cultists know something about his past life or something, this memory repressions he's having of being this anti-hero. But that's just me projecting what the story is. At this point, we don't know any of that. What really drew me into this book was Muty's artwork.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely gorgeous. Matt and I were talking about it before the show started, and I was looking up Muty's other work. Rebels was the one that he worked on that was very much a straight line to this book because it's colonial America during the Revolutionary War. It just absolutely, the colors in this book, if you want a reference points for the colors, it would be Lemire's work in Trillium.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it's done in a lot of ink wash with just a few colors, especially when it's the colonial part. Mm-hmm. It's done in this black ink wash with a lot of just bright colors thrown in when they're needed. The layouts are gorgeous. The art's gorgeous. I mean, I got on this book. I really didn't even know what it was, but I got it because it was Cullen Bunn and Andrea Muty.
Yeah.
Just for the creative team alone. Mm-hmm. And boy, was I glad I did.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
So I read this as well. And just a few thoughts on it. There's a lot going on with this book. Like you said, you're dealing with, again, just like the book that we just read, just like Adventure Man, you're dealing with this kind of split narrative that takes place on two different planes, that's interesting that we've seen so many versions of that in the last 2 or 3 years. It's not a novel trope like it's been done before, but it's always interesting when these type of tropes come back into vogue, and they all tend to almost happen spontaneously because the zeitgeist is weird that way. It's got little tendrils in everybody's brains, and it kind of leads the collective independently to the same spot. I think that's one of the things I love about the community of art. Is how all of these different people are being led the same way by the machinations of the universe. Almost, it just gets them there. But also because there's so much in this book, if it wasn't Cullen Bunn, I would probably feel like there's just too much going on. Like you said, you've got You've got a dreamscape. You've got the real world that tethers into the dreamscape. You've got cults.
Social commentary.
Yeah.
You got there's a lot happening.
But because it's Cullen Bunn, it's so fucking well balanced that it's just like, no, like I trust him.
And you may go to the dream world for a page or two, and then back to quote unquote the real world. And again, we're assuming dream world based on the solicit for the next issue.
Yep.
It doesn't tell you that in this issue.
No.
Nor does it tell you that it's a husband and wife, or that this is the father. It's assumptions you're led to believe.
Yeah.
Based on the context of the story, but it never comes out and says that this unsheltered man is Mr. Greer.
Right.
We just assume that because, nor does it say that the boy is either one of their child.
No.
But it leads you to believe that by the way things are done and shown and drawn.
Yeah, no, it's
got a chain of events that lead you there without actually saying any
right.
of this.
Cullen Bunn's a master at manipulating the reader. He's a master at taking you places. And usually, I mean, this is true of like his work in Harrow County and stuff. It may not be what he wanted you to think. Like, he's great at misdirection.
Yeah,
and that's what
all of those assumptions may be 100% wrong.
But that's okay because he is. But he is good at that misdirection. Like and that's the kind of writer that he is. He really does know how to manipulate his audience.
Yeah.
And from a craft perspective, that's not easy. Like but he's great at it. And then lastly, tying into both of them, one of the other reasons I love Cullen Bunn is because we have similar like taste, I think, in artists. And I've found so I love watercolor works. You like Tyler Crook, the Jenkinses. Like I think they're phenomenal, and I've found some of my favorite watercolorists on Cullen Bunn books. Like, he draws them to them, and that's also true of Moody. Now, we've seen Andrea Moody and stuff before, but like, he's doing some next level work in this book. And also, if anybody's reading this book and they don't say to themselves, we should get him on a shadow book, like, I would love to see Andrea Moody draw like the shadow.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is very much a colonial shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
it's an anti-hero. He doesn't show his face from his nose down. He very much it reminded me of Paul Revere, the way he's drawn. He's got except he's wearing a red coat, so it's kind of the anti-Paul Revere.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I thought it was great, and I am extremely locked into this book.
And again, it was when I saw, because I went, like I said this morning, I went and looked to see what he had worked on before, because I know I've seen some of his other work, but the fact that he had worked on Rebels, which I would recommend, except for who wrote it.
Yeah.
I would. You can see the direct line from there to here because of the colonial work in it. So
yeah, I thought it was fundamentally a great story, and I mean, I'm a Bunn mark too, so that's I'm on it.
Cullen Bunn, I'm going to usually pick up his work, especially his independent creator-owned stuff.
Well, Matt, what did you grab? Because you haven't read that yet, right?
No, I have not.
Okay,
no.
I'm going to challenge you to do so.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
I think you'll dig it. But what did you read this week?
I'll tell you what I read.
Ooh.
A beautiful book.
This was amazing. This was one of those reads where it felt like a breath of fresh air.
This is a book I could have read twice. Easily.
But you didn't, I
did
note.
not.
Yeah.
He nailed it on the first run.
Bunch of smoke. So from Vault Comics, Barbaric #1. The creative team, the writer is Michael Morrissey. The artist is Nathan Gooden. Colorist is Addison Duke. Letterer is Jim Campbell. And I loved everything all four of these people did. The creative team is badass. There's several covers available for this book. I have the red cover, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
I fucking
like
love this cover.
I like yours better than the one I got.
Oh,
there was
man.
nothing. Mine had the Barbarian on the front.
Yeah.
Did we ever get his name?
Yeah. The name of the Barbarian. On that note, I'm going to read On that note, I'm going to read the synopsis on the back to sum up the story. Owen, the Barbarian,
There we go.
has been cursed to do good with what remains of his life. His bloodthirsty weapon axe has become his moral compass with a drinking problem. Together they wander the realm, foredoomed to help any who seek assistance, but there is one thing Owen hates more than a life with rules: witches.
Yep.
This is an amazing story. I fucking loved this book, man. I cannot wait for the next issue and to see where this is going. The character design is fucking off the chart, man.
The axe is fucking amazing.
Everybody's character design is great. The artwork is outstanding. This, Owen, which he knocks his own name. I love that. I love his name is. I love that his name is Owen the Barbarian. That is really cool, man. That he gave him. I mean,
Apparently, I need to reread it because I forgot.
Oh man, yeah. Owen the Barbarian. And he's like, at one point, he's like, I never sought riches or to be a king or to have songs written about me, especially since my name doesn't rhyme with anything. Barbaric.
That was
Yeah. And what I thought was funny is his name's Owen the Barbarian. He never bothers to change his own name. He's just like,
It is what it is.
Yeah.
There's the part where he's like, I like to drink, fuck, fight, fuck, drink.
Yeah.
Oh, you get
He
that.
truly embraces the barbarian lifestyle.
Yeah. He's hedonistic as hell.
Just hedonistic, just serving his most base desires, and until he's forced to do otherwise by these witches that apparently been following him for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And as the synopsis states, they curse him. They do give him a choice. They're like, because he is stabbed with a magic blade.
Yep.
And they're like, you're not going to overcome this. So we can let you die and send you to hell where all your most powerful vanquished enemies lie.
Yep.
Or you can accept the curse and help people. You'll be compelled, and you have to help people. You can only do good.
Right.
These witches say. And he pauses and says, show me hell one more time.
Yeah,
That was my favorite line.
Yeah.
In the whole
they
book.
give him some insight into what it's going to be.
Yeah.
He's like, do I really want this?
Yeah. So he does decide to accept the curse, and it's amazing. The scene later in the book is he is in a local tavern being completely irritated by a local drunkard
Right.
who bragging about his exploits that aren't his exploits. And he's pondering if he can kill a braggart. And the axe, his magical axe, his moral compass says, no, you can't kill somebody because they are a braggart. That's not helping.
Yep.
Much to his dismay.
Again, is it though?
Yeah. And, they then in the tavern, they hear, burn the witch, burn the witch. And he sighs and looks at his action and says, I guess I have to be involved in this. And he's like, absolutely, And I just love, the way he interjects. He just, can we fucking stop killing women?
Yeah.
I love that's how he interjects.
Well, so there's a few moments like the can we stop killing men? Like I literally at one point had to go back and look at the cover. I'm like, wait a minute, is this a Mark Russell book that I'm reading?
Yeah.
Like it was very much like it had that same
Social
kind of
commentary.
Well, in the beginning of the book where they're set up and he's got to choose, like he's got to go battle these three people, and he's like, all right, I can kill you two, but this guy I can't really kill him. I'm like, well, but he's a thief. I'm like, he was fucking hungry.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Well, how are the rich people gonna stay rich?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it was like that. So the joke that they make is, well, the guy in charge who quote unquote owns him is just like, how is the money going to trickle down if people think it's okay to steal from the rich? He's like, well, if the money's going to trickle down, how come the rich are stealing now?
Yeah.
Like I had to go back and double check. I'm like, this feels like Mark Russell.
Yeah. It was clever, well written, easy to read, compelling subject matter. I mean, in the character development, and again in an introductory issue, sometimes that's hard to do. Yeah. I mean, it was just the all around. I thought this was a top notch book. Brutal.
Yeah. The axe getting drunk off of blood.
Yeah. The axe actually gets inebriated off blood.
The fact that the axe talks back to him and no one else can
hear
it's
a very Calvin and Hobbes.
Are you talking to your axe?
Yeah. It's like,
You
no
can't
more.
have any more
Yeah,
alcohol.
they try to cut him off at the tavern. They think he's drunk and talking to his axe.
How about the one guy that he can't kill because he's not done anything wrong yet, so he rips off his testicles?
That was God, that was so gruesome. Oh man.
No, that was I didn't know I needed to see that. But I still don't know that I needed to see that.
It was brutal. I mean, which is what you expect out of a title called Barbaric.
Yeah, it
is
delivered.
Yeah.
It delivered so well on its title.
Yeah, this is a book, so everybody knows that none of the three of us knew the other two were reading.
Yeah, and we've all read it.
Yeah.
At this point,
It was wonderful. I love, and something that I won't spoil, I love the witch that he runs across in the tavern. I love her design and one of her powers, how her weapons, she manifests her weapons. I thought was really clever.
Yeah.
Really cool.
So this is the second book by Michael Morrissey that I've read, or third book. But if you remember from last year, one of my favorite books was from Vault Comics. It was The Plot.
Yeah.
He also wrote that.
Yeah.
So if you haven't read that, go check out his prior work. Now this is way more comical. Like I was not expecting this from him, just because I've only read a little bit of his work. Way different in tone, way different structure. And like even the way that the pages are laid out is incredibly different. And I don't know if he writes that into his scripts, but I can assume he does, because most people write that script style now. So the way that he directed the story was a lot different than the plot, which just makes me happy, because I'm like, okay, this guy really is, like, he is that talented. He is that skilled as a writer. He can do a little bit of everything, because the plot was nothing like this. You're dealing with a kind of a classical horror story about generational trauma. This is a lot bit different. And then the color palette that they chose to use from this, all the pinks and the greens that are throughout the book, just really, really resonated with what that story was. So, man, I love this story.
Yeah, this is there is nothing about this I would change.
No.
It is just top notch, man. This, and like I said, this felt like a breath of fresh air.
Right.
It really did. It was just such a fun story.
Considering what we've been getting for Conan lately,
Yeah.
For this to be a barbarian tale is fantastic. I know it's not Conan. He's not Conan-esque.
Right, but no, he's based off. But I will say that
Barbarian tropes.
that is true of Marvel and Marvel's Conan. But the Conan that we're getting
Cimmerian
in
stuff.
Cimmerian stuff is so freaking good. Yeah. Like it's just. But that being said, I also I'm still reading Savage Avengers and Conan, and that is amazing. It's not like Matt would hate it, but he is, as he's just sitting inside the. Currently, Conan has taken over what was the team from the X-Men that they have all the White Knight and the Black Knight and the White Queen and why can't I think of the name? Emma Frost led them forever.
Hellfire Club?
Yeah, the Hellfire Club. He's taken over the Hellfire Mansion and is just in there in like a poofy shirt talking a lot of shit. So it's pretty great. But no, don't sleep on Vault, dude. Like if anybody has not jumped on the Vault train, Matt's belovedness of this book should get you on there.
It's outstanding. Absolutely. Yeah, it's outstanding. I don't, somebody's have to justify why they wouldn't like this book.
One of my favorite first issues.
They would have to.
Yeah,
because
one of my favorite first issues.
It's so good.
That we've read so far this year. So, well, all right. I'm going to jump us over. See, you've done a Vault book. Craig did a Dark Horse book. I'm going to jump us over to the Marvel. I've been reading a ton more superhero stuff lately. There for a while last year, I was not on the superhero train as much. wasn't digging it.
It's cyclical.
It is.
Depending on where the good stories are, that's where I'm at.
You know where the good stories are? I'll tell you where the good stories are.
In my stack.
Yes, true. They're on the wall in the comic book shop.
Is definitely one of
Do I need to go back over Miss Mystic again?
No. Let's
okay.
Neil Adams is already going to charge us for mentioning his name.
Saying his name more than once. Say it again, he'll bust through the wall.
No, the goods, like the Kool-Aid Man. It's just like, hey. No, but the good stories right now, a lot of them are in the X-verse, in the X-Men part of the Marvel Universe. And we've gushed over that copiously. Like, ever since Hoxpox came out, we've been on board. But, a few weeks ago, we were talking about previews and stuff like that. And we noticed, I guess I should say a few months ago, but we noticed that X-Men #1 was coming out. But it wasn't being written by Hickman. Duggan was taking it over. And we were all like, this is this is Hickman's baby. What's happening with this? Is he just gone for good, or is he being like the puppet master? What's Duggan going to do? What's happening with this? Are we past this chapter of Hickman? And the answer to all those questions is no, yes, and no. Hickman is definitely still.
Could you repeat the questions?
No, just trust me that I'm right. So because I don't remember the questions, but no. So Hickman is definitely still the puppet master as far as the X office goes.
He's controlling the universe.
Yeah, he's it's all steeped in what he's created.
If this were a television series, I would picture it as having different writers for different episodes or different storylines.
Yeah, but he's Dick Wolf.
Yes, he's the he's the story runner.
Yeah, flat out. That's exactly what he's doing for all this. But Duggan and Larraz have kind of jumped, and I should say, this is Jerry Duggan, Pepe Larraz, and an individual named Gracia is doing the covers, and I don't have it open to the title page, so I can't tell you. Marte Gracia with Clayton Cowles doing the letters. They are taking the actual X-Men book over, and this, unlike like Hickman's X-Men, is actually a fully fledged team. That was what happened. That was one of the things I should say that happened at the end of the Hellfire Gala. They took over Mars like you do, and they took a vote and they decided who the X-Men would be. And now what Duggan has got them doing is he has moved them back into New York. But instead of going to the X Mansion, they have planted a giant treehouse in at the end of Manhattan. And it's just this towering behemoth of a tree. And they are going to essentially use it as a base of operations for saving the world. Now that they're ramping up, they're back on this galactic scale, and the X-Men need to be a team again.
They need goodwill with humanity.
Right. It's essentially an embassy, I think, it's acting that way.
They were given a plot of land, a park is kind of hey, look at all the good that the X-Men have done for us, or the mutants have done for us.
Yep. And they've built it up kind of to be this, number one, a base of operations, but it's also a memorial. So to the mutants who have sacrificed themselves, who aren't getting brought back, Warbird in particular, it's a memorial to him. They're even naming, instead of having the Blackbird, they've now named the X-Jet after him, or they're trying to. Just kind of this testimonial to a great guy. Who apparently isn't being resurrected, and I'm not sure why on that or where that comes from.
He's just
but
down the list, probably.
He's just not coming back. They've put up the tombstone, but they got there just in time. They have established a base of operations almost perfectly, because lo and behold, this giant tentacled behemoth monster crashes in, like he comes in like a wrecking ball, and just is like about to wreck shop, and the X-Men jump into action. Except Jean Grey, scans this thing, and it doesn't have a brain, so to speak. Like, she's not picking up any sentience from it. And Polaris is like, hey, this thing looks like a giant machine. Wait till it can see what I can do with metal, except it's not a metal that's polarized, and she can't fight against it. And the thing is big enough and strong enough that it just kicks rogue through several buildings, and just knocks her the fuck out. And so the team jumps into action and they fight it. And just as far as an adventure story goes, the ridiculousness starts to ensue from there. They actually have to, Sync has to get them all together, and what they do is they create this little giant robot out of scrap metal and stuff that's laying around the city to go fight this creature, as it just wreaks havoc on, like it's dropping psionic bombs and just doing terrible things. And they don't know where this thing came from, right? Like, they've got to go sit down and study it, but they know it was sent by someone. They know it came from somewhere, and they don't know what or who. But the book, at the end of it, gives you a glimpse of where this thing came from. And when... Basically, I'm not going to spoil what happens, but basically, when the mutants took over Mars, they might have pissed off a lot of people, or at least they caught the attention of some very large players in the universe, because now they're playing at a cosmic scale. And
taking over planets has an effect?
Well, so not only does it have this effect in grandeur across the universe. Now they're on the radar of people who are not so good people and who want to test them. It also it kind of funnels down to the personal level. There was this individual throughout the story who was a child genius, and kept coming up with things and had an idea how to basically terraform Mars, or to at least get people to be able to survive on Mars.
Not include using Omega level mutants.
No, at all. And when the mutants took over Mars, really disrupted the thing, and just it was that moment where a person with good intentions is undermined, and all of a sudden you kind of feel like he might be becoming a villain. It took everything away from him, and he's a little bit bitter about it. So we're going to see where that goes. But I love that in this opening story, you get some Bronze Age ridiculousness with the robot. Like I said, when I was reading the robot, I was like, okay, this feels like it was written in the 70s. It's funny, it's crazy, it was unexpected, came out of left field, but it worked so well. And you get X-Men lore, like Scott Summers makes a baseball reference, and it reminded me of those times where in the X-Men they just get together and run some bases and play some baseball. Like there's still that small scale family element to it, and
I really enjoyed the team
of
characters that are in this. I like that Laura's Wolverine.
Me too. Yeah, I'm glad she's back in the universe.
And she's still doing the nasty stuff.
Yeah. I'm really glad she's on this boat.
Yeah.
It's a way to give us Wolverine on different teams without making it the same Wolverine.
Right.
When you have 3 or 4 potential Wolverines.
Yeah, how is this dude everywhere?
Yeah.
And she's a different character too. I mean, she's got her own personality.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm saying as far as having the same power set,
right,
without having to have Logan be on every team.
Yep.
Because I'm enjoying him on X-Force, which is where he should be, and then to have her be on the X-Men,
right.
I think is better suited to her personality.
Well, and it's a little bit, so it is, and it also, so one of the things I never understood, one of the dynamics of the X-Men was always, okay, Wolverine really is just a murder machine. Like, Knife Hands wants to kill everybody. Like, he slaughters people, right? Like, if he's up against bad guys, he's taking as many people out as possible. And I always saw that kind of coming to head with the way that, like, Storm and Jean Grey would do things. So when you have them, like, on specifically like the X-Men 90s team, like, I feel like there would have been a lot more tension between them.
We are scowling for our listeners, so we're waiting to see where this goes.
No, I'm just saying, like, that always felt kind of like they would have butted heads a lot more. And what they ended up butting heads over was Jean. Like, it was him and Scott.
But
now we don't have that problem. But Laura seems like she fits in better. Like, her personality and the way that she views the world, it seems like she would fit in better with that team dynamic.
Oh boy, rubbing my hands together. Craig, would you like to start?
Never seemed like a team player to me.
So that is exactly why he was a compelling part of the team, is because he was not a team player,
right?
And from day one, that was right up front. That And Xavier constantly had to justify to Scott Summers why he was part of the team. And Wolverine openly said he's not a good team player, and he would do things that that's why him and Cyclops butted heads, because there's an old story where the X-Men are trying to storm a compound, and there are guards, and Cyclops is trying to figure out, okay, how we're going to take out the guards. Wolverine shows up and goes, guards are taken care of. And he goes, I don't want to know what that means. We'll just carry on. There's a constant, that's what made Wolverine such a compelling character at the time, is he did the dirty work.
Yep.
Wolverine's like, somebody needs to be killed? No problem. Yep. Everybody else wrestled with their conscience of it. And he's like, nope, I'll do it. I'll do the dirty work. And he was not a good follower. He aggravated the shit out of everybody, and Chris Claremont wanted to kill Wolverine off.
Yeah.
He hated Wolverine as a character. John Byrne was like, no, this is a great character. And Chris Claremont grew to love him over time. But yeah, you're not wrong, but that's why he was compelling.
No, yeah.
But in later days, it caused the conflict in reverse as Wolverine became a team player and less of a killer.
Right.
And Scott became in charge of the X-Men after Charles was gone. And Scott's going, I need you to go kill these people. Yeah. And Wolverine's like, what, you can't get your hands dirty,
Yeah.
so it's on me to
Well,
be
no,
that guy?
I remember those moments, especially where, like you said, when Scott kind of jumps over on Magneto's like mindset and almost surpasses Magneto's mindset, and really becomes a terrorist. Like Logan did become almost the
He did.
Well, yeah, the consciousness of the group.
It was incredible character growth on Wolverine throughout the years to get to that point. And then it also showed what happens to somebody that's got a vision but doesn't know how to execute that vision.
Right.
But just knows what the ends justify the means, and that's what happened with Scott.
Yeah.
Which is a deviation from this book.
No, I just...
It's...
to back to what I was talking about, though, like to me that's why it almost makes more sense as far as this new team and them trying to really be a cohesive unit on the same page to have Laura there instead of Logan. I think she fits in with that group better.
That Logan being on the X-Force is a smarter place for him to be.
I don't know. I think you could use them interchangeably a certain degree. I think she would fit in X-Force very well. The reason I prefer Logan on X-Force is for one reason: his interaction with Kid Omega. That's really because it'll be interesting.
Interaction with Deadpool.
Yeah, was his interaction with anybody, I'm a mark for. I mean, to be honest, but it'll be interesting to see how Jerry Duggan writes Laura, because he already writes her as gruff. Yeah, she's not a colorful person. If you remember, her greeting. Remember the greeting? Did you ever notice that her greeting was like, whenever the new girl showed up. So I'm really looking forward to how he writes Laura as a character. And how she fits into the team, because she does seem to be a better team player than Logan, but still not not a great team player. You know what I'm saying?
No, for sure.
Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, she doesn't have the length of history that Logan has, but she has at least as hard of a history as he had with the scent that they used to turn her into a killing machine. She doesn't have as long doing it, but she still has.
Yeah, they're both victimized by the people that they are now tasked with saving to some extent. And I think that's always played a big role. And it's going to be interesting to see how Duggan brings that to a head with everybody else. So the standout for me...
Is Honey Badger still in the...
I cannot wait for her to come back. I miss her. God knows I miss her. She is such a little badass. And I want her. I need her to be back in the book so bad. But the standout to me was actually Sync. Like Generation X was my shit. I love that book. Penance and Monet are still, like that whole storyline, still one of my favorite. I dig it a lot. And then to have Sync to be on this main X team, not only be on the main X book, but almost be this. He is almost the hub, because he is able to make people's stuff like this whole thing that it's like the fastball special jacked up on Mountain Dew. Like, it's just like he's taking all of these people's powers and like finding ways to make them do this bigger and better thing. He builds this treehouse with the help of Forge. Like, he syncs up with Forge, and so he has Forge come check his work. And Forge steps down and is like, look, I'm just going to say this. Like, I'm not a better Forge than you are. Like, you're a better me than I am sometimes. Like, this is weird. But to have Sync jump up to this next level, and look, we've again...
And the artwork is badass.
We have been on plot this whole time. I say this every time I read a Pepe Larraz book. Pepe Larraz is an art beast. There is not a single page in this that is not fucking outstanding. And he is, his use of Zipatone for shadows. Like, if you look at this, there's one scene in particular. A lot of times people are drawing shadows in front of windows. They'll pencil it in, right? He's not doing that. He literally takes Zipatone, and he works traditionally. He lays it over and he cuts the squares out, like by hand. Like, that's the kind of detail and the craftsmanship he puts into his art. Like, his cross hatching is just freaking stupid. Like, it's the level of detail and the fashion, the positions, the camera angles that he uses for all of these is he's one of the best artists at Marvel right
He's
now.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
Just the picture of the little robot that they created just with its big flat feet.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. There is so much in this book visually.
Yeah, the creative team, man, you can't miss with this creative team. That's
Pepe Larraz is already a legend. In my book, he is already like a legendary artist. I am just going forward. I'm really interested to see who the people that sent the machine really are. Like, you get a glimpse of them, and there's almost like a mafioso style element to them. Running illegal gambling rings, literally that can affect a planet. And there is one image to where this plant type creature builds itself out of the skeleton of an astronaut. Those 3 panels are like I got goosebumps. Like, it made me feel like it was just nasty. As watching this thing grow up.
Made him feel a certain kind
no,
of way.
dude, I was just like, ugh. Like, I literally was like, this is both gorgeous and grotesque at the same time. And then to see the thing smile.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, like, done, like, fuck. Like, that's, dude, Pepe Larraz could draw the phone book, and I would read it. Just, it's stunning.
So
he's not a human.
So this is something that I'm glad we're finally at, because it's been my biggest complaint during the Hickman era.
Why there's not a cohesive team.
Why do we have a book called The X-Men that there's no X-Men in? It's mutants.
Right.
And it's mutant history and it's mutant world building, but there was no X-Men in the X-Men book.
Right.
We're finally to that point where we've got the world built. Their new rules set up for the X-Men and for mutantdom in general. Now we've got an X-Men team. Now, whether they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart or whether they're doing it as a goodwill showing,
right,
or whether it's some other motivation, we don't know that yet. But so far, everything behind the scenes has been a way to manipulate humanity.
Well, on that note, like, I've always felt since the beginning of this, from the beginning of Hickman's era on the X-Men, he is making, at least on some level, a statement on imperialism, right? Like, you can use Krakoa, if you will, as a metaphor for Israel, so to speak. A nation dropped in the middle of a hostile environment, created by a group of people for them, based on a historic homeland. Like, that's a metaphor there. And what he's doing here is he's building on that. So in many ways, Krakoa and the mutants are historically a lot of America. Like, they're we have military bases all over the world that we conduct and protect. I'm using air quotes. That's just me. We protect our own self-interest, and we make sure that we can be where we need to be at any given time. There's a reason we have
literally can.
Yeah, there's a reason that we have gunships and aircraft carriers. We got 13 of them scattered out everywhere, right? So they're doing that. In many ways, they're a stand-in for the global control that the United States has historically represented in a post-World War II society. Now that's them, and I think he's showing you what that would look like on American soil for this other group of people, and I think that's going to be a big problem. And because, and kind of the point you were making, the book is self-referential, so there is. Longtime Marvel fans will be excited. Ben Urich, the legendary reporter, shows up, and he actually makes that joke. He makes jokes like, "Yeah, sometimes I use mutants and X-Men interchangeably, and I've got to quit that." And I thought the fact that little small meta element was in there. That's me. I love reading between the lines, and the smartest Marvel stories and are the smartest DC stories. They give you that contextual nuance. They give you those layers where it can just be a base level dumb fun superhero story, but if you read it hard enough, it really is social commentary, and that's what I like about Big Two comics. Going back 80 years, superhero comics specifically, and I think comics at large as a medium have been this roadmap and this tracking of American pop culture history. You can go back and you can take comics to see what was really happening in the era, and I say that with the caveat that most of what have been printed are stories by white men, right? So it's what's happening from their viewpoint, be it from Malston when he created Wonder Woman, and it being a counterculture story about the patriarchy and about Judeo-Christian view on sex, all the way to the 60s, and Gene Colan writing under a pseudonym and writing these stories about black men being astronauts, and Kirby and Ditko and Stan Lee to an extent creating these metaphors for the social justice movement and stuff like that. Like, there is this perspective, and unfortunately there's a lot of perspective that's missed out, but it's still there. Like, it's still that's what I love about American comics from a historical perspective, is it is a blueprint and a roadmap to the issues that were pervasive at the moment. At least the good ones are. And I think that's even true of, like you could, Sergio Aragonés, you mentioned Gru earlier. There's a lot in there that is subtextual, that is subversive, that is of the moment.
All art is a product of its time, whether it's, comic or it's, literature or it's, painting or whatever. It's all a product of its time. And there's no way that what's happening in the world can't be portrayed.
Yeah, and that's why I've never understood the folks who say that they don't want their comics to be... What they say is, I don't want politics in my comics, but what they're saying is they don't want their comics to be a commentary on the world view that's different from theirs. And I don't understand that, because even, there's a lot of... We were reading a story last week that, poked fun at people like me who do this very thing, who look at, like, they take an academic stance on stuff that...
It was pretty great.
He listened, because he does that. But it's... But even then, when it's not my worldview, I still think that there's something important about it. Like, I have these assholes with their Indiegogo comics.
I'm still waiting to see how the X-Men team relates back to the Krakoans.
What do you mean?
Like what I said. I mean, is it a out of the goodness of their heart? Is it a ulterior motive?
Well, that's what I was saying about it being like a metaphor for America. Are we there out of the goodness of our heart, goodwill? Like, do we have bases set up in South Korea?
I mean, it's Scott and Jean earlier in the X-Men title told Xavier, we're going to go back to being X-Men. Mm-hmm. They announced they were leaving the council. Said we are vacating the council so we can go back to being X-Men. Yeah. We feel isolated on our island here. We're not out there helping people. So that's what this is. This is them.
Scott and Jean and the team have that in mind. But what is going on behind the scenes with
what do the kids like from as like that's a governmental agency?
About. Is there, ultimately Scott's going to bend to the will of Charles, but we don't know that.
He says he kind of says as much. Like, he's like, look, like, we're here and we have a presence, and a lot of it has to do with like the medicine that Krakoans have introduced, and there's these they're facing the biggest enemy that they've ever faced, which is the zoning board of New York City. But he says that he's like, I'm going to leave that up to X Corp. So even if they're loosely separated from that, they're still acting as agents of the council. That.
Yeah, they're not turning their back. No. They're just, they're separating. They're putting their efforts elsewhere.
Right.
They're
not wholly independent from that, though.
Yeah, I could see some future political ramifications.
Based
on what they're doing. Yeah, I mean,
what a twist!
Right, exactly. I mean, but the fact that they are considered their own country now, but yet they're operating out of New York City.
Yeah,
so I could see some. There's some great things that are being set up, I guess, is my point.
Yeah, well, and there's also, like, just on that note, like, you look at Scott Summers, these are also American citizens still, I think. Like, I don't know, like, there's a question, have they given up their sovereignty to America? Like, and how are they considered with that? So there's a lot of that that's going to be explored, and I think explored smartly. And so we're getting a little long in the tooth there, and that's my fault. But I will say, speaking of exploring things, this next week on Wednesday, Tuesday too, new comic books are going to drop as they are wont to do. And we have some suggestions. We have some things that we're going to pick up, and we think that you, dear listeners at home, to borrow a phrase from Bill, would enjoy picking up as well. So I want to hear from my boys over here what's going to happen next week that they're looking forward to.
I'm going to suggest that people read No Ghost in Hiroshima by Scout Comics. It's Luigi Barillo, Alberto Rios, and Zach Bruner.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. James Henriksen is racked with guilt because he made a mistake. Because of a mistake he made many years ago, he believes he is unwittingly condemned an innocent soul to eternal damnation.
I like Scout Comics. They put out some good stuff.
Yeah. That's our buddy Rich Woodall.
Yeah. We got to get him back on the show.
We do.
So the book I'm going to pick up is from Dark Horse Comics. This is Savage Hearts #1 by Aubrey Sitterson, Jed Dougherty, Taylor Esposito, and Laverne Kaczynski. That is wrong. She is a brawny barbarian bruiser with a broken heart, and he is a lonely beast man who talks to dinosaurs. What happens when they team up against an evil sorcerer?
She's a small town girl from a lonely world.
No, she's not, Craig.
He's just a city boy. He was born and raised in South Detroit. There's that throbbing temple again. Now that's going to be stuck in my head, and I'm going to be mad at you all day.
For those of you that can't see,
no, they know.
Matt's forehead is bulging.
Right at the moment. He just beams daggers through both of us. I
can see the blood pumping through his neck veins.
All right.
Boner softener over here.
Boner softener.
I was watching The Sopranos last night. It was the episode where he's talking to the chick, the Mercedes saleswoman, and she asked him about his family. He's like, "Oh, hey, look at that! There it went." And she was like, "What was that? That was my heart on going away."
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
All right, so because I am the resident the head cheerleader for Barbarians and for Robert E. Howard and Conan on the show.
Go fuck yourself.
Next week, the Cimmerian, a new chapter of that series that we have all really been loving, it comes out, and this is from Blaze Comics. This is Man-Eaters of Zambola. Now, if somehow you have missed all of these books and you're like, okay, weird Conan story, where is this coming from? Because it is, in fact, a Conan story. Blaze Comics has been producing these usually 3-issue series, and they are using the actual Robert E. Howard writings, the short stories, and they are turning those into scripts. But it's, I would say, other than one or two, it's all stayed fairly true to the source material. There hasn't been any weird twists or turns, and it's just some of these really amazing European bande dessinée style artists who come in here and redraw these stories, and I cannot get enough of this stuff. I think it is some of the most gorgeous work. The Frost Giant's Daughter remains my favorite.
Yeah.
But this one is, as I said, Man-Eaters of Zambola, and Zambola is this kind of hub of culture in his world, and Conan gets there, and he's given a warning about this person, this Aram Baksh home. It's said that most foreigners who stay there disappear under obscure circumstances, and that's precisely where the Cimmerian's going to be staying. So I'm really looking forward to this. If you go online, you can see some of the artwork from it. Yet again, home run. That cover is gorgeous. They are getting more to the original promise of it being Conan uncensored. You're starting to see more sex and more hyper-violence and stuff. If that's your cup of tea. Yeah. Look, some people, there's a person out there, I'm sure. So, but it is my cup of tea. And dude, some of these covers, look, they have something for everybody. If you're into voluptuous, curvy women, like my cohorts here, this book is for you. If you're into dudes that are built like brick shithouses and are just stacked from head to toe, like me, then this book is for you. But it really is. It's really universal, I think, and its embrace of sensuality.
It's appeal to sexuality.
Yeah. So I'm about it. But yeah, new Conan stories from Ablaze. So go check out the Cimmerian. And in the meantime, you should go visit our Facebook pages. We only have one. It is Southern Fried Geekery. You can see panels and you can check out stuff that we're reading by following us on Instagram and Twitter. We're at SFG Podcast on the both of those. And if you need to email us, you got any comments or questions, maybe you want to revisit Riding the Flesh Highway like we did last week, you can email us at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. And did I miss anything today, fellas? We got any?
No, I think we covered it.
No, that everything. Go out and have a great week, and we'll be back at the same place, probably the same time next week, and we will see you then. Until then, go forth and love some comics.
Get barbaric.
Yes. Co-signed. Thry-signed?
Thry-signed.
Yeah, thry-signed. That makes
that's a
sense. It is now. I said it. That's my mark on history.
Go ride the flesh highway.